well, the House could vote on a nearly $40 billion aid package for Ukraine as soon as today. President Biden said in a statement yesterday that the need for more Ukraine funding is urgent, as previous funding is nearly exhausted. The new package would reportedly include nearly $24 billion of military and security aid for Kyiv, $8.5 billion for economic assistance, and another $6.4 billion for humanitarian aid. Joining me right now is Fox News senior strategic analyst, General Jack Keane. General, it's always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Yeah, great to be here, Maria.
Does this sound like the right move, this aid package? What else does Ukraine need right now? Zelensky keeps begging for weaponry. What do you make of this aid package?
Well, I think it's absolutely the right thing. It surprised most of us in terms of how extensive it is. I mean, the Biden administration has gone through a major policy shift. They won't admit it. In the beginning, they were providing limited support to Zelensky, hoping that he would make a deal with the Russians. And now, based on the success that they've enjoyed, there has been a policy shift. And the atrocities that the Russians are committing, I think, has really unriled the world against the Russians. The Biden administration is all in, and they're trying to help Zelensky achieve what his goal is, and that is to crush the Russian army in Ukraine and defeat it. And this equipment is vital to that end and that purpose. And listen, Maria, what better deterrence could NATO possibly have, knowing full well that Putin is threatening to take back the Soviet republics by force, if necessary, that are now in NATO, than to defeat the Russian army that would threaten NATO, defeat it in Ukraine. It would take years for them to recover from something. Now, this is not a foregone conclusion. There's a lot of challenges here that remains for the Ukraine military to deal with the Russians. But what they have shown so far is remarkable.
Well, it's hard to watch that victory parade in Russia yesterday because it brings back all of these horrible pictures and memories of World War II. But just as the administration is focused on aid to Ukraine, they are also trying to get the United States back into an Iran deal. And the European Union's Iran nuclear talks envoy reportedly visited Tehran today. The EU says it's looking to break a stalemate and save the deal. Where are you on this deal? I mean, talks to return to the 2015 deal have been on hold since March, apparently, because Tehran is demanding that the U.S. remove Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard from the foreign terrorist list, General. So we've got the administration considering taking the terrorist name off of the Iran guards. The International Atomic Energy Agency Director General also said that they're still hopeful for a nuclear deal, but they're worried about Tehran's nuclear activities. All of this as Iran is very clear to say that it still wants Secretary Pompeo dead and other U.S. officials from the Trump administration. And yet we're negotiating with Iran, even as they have X's on the backs of former officials from the Trump administration.
Yeah, I think, look, we're heading towards a bad deal here. I mean, there's very few bipartisan support for issues. One is certainly Ukraine and Russia, huge bipartisan support. The other is the security threat that China poses. And the other is the Iran deal. The Obama administration, for the first deal, could not get it passed through the Senate as a treaty, and they wouldn't be able to do it with this one either. And why is that? Because the deal still is what it is. It's a pathway to a nuclear weapon as opposed to prohibiting a nuclear weapon. And I suspect the administration, while they're resisting the removal of the designation of the IRGC as a terrorist organization, and that's a good thing. It should remain in place for all the obvious reasons. We don't have to detail what they have done in terms of their malign behavior here. But I suspect the administration may fold on this, given the pressure and their desire for a deal, because they have thrown away all the other things that should be a part of the deal, anywhere, anytime inspections, ballistic missile prohibition, a curbing of your behavior and religion. They're all off the table. And so we're back to where the 2014, 2015 deal is, and it's worse in the minds of Democrats who are opposed to this deal, like Senator Menendez.
Yep. Well, what about the China story? You just mentioned it. The administration reportedly pressing Taiwan to buy weapons that are better suited to win in a potential Chinese invasion. The New York Times is reporting this, by the way. So the U.S. they say that the U.S. is pushing Taiwan to order missiles and smaller arms for asymmetric warfare, General, with the expectation that the CCP will go into Taiwan at some point. How do you read?
Well, I think there's a major lesson to be learned here from Ukraine and Russia, and that is Putin threatened to use force in Ukraine to turn them away from the West and to turn them away from NATO. And we sort of discounted that through multiple administrations. And what happened? We got that, and now we're in emergency arms shipment. Emergency, because we're in a crisis. What we have here in Taiwan is a leader that's been threatening to use force to take Taiwan for a number of years. I suggest we take him very seriously about that. Two things we got to do in the near term, and that's build up U.S. capacity in the region. We've talked about many times here on the show because our capacity for deterrence has eroded. We're outgunned and outmanned. And the second thing is what you're discussing here, and that is upgun Taiwan. I don't think we should beat them over the head in terms of what they want versus what we believe they think they should have. We have got to get all in here, Maria. We don't play joint exercises with Taiwan. The Indo-Pacific Command doesn't play how the war would unfold and how the handoff would be made to the United States military and the coordination is necessary. We've got to start doing that. Senator Mark Rubio's got a bill to do two things that he wants to pass through the Congress. One, fast-track weapons to Taiwan now and avoid what's happening in Ukraine in terms of emergency relief.
Yeah.
And two, start serious joint military training with them, and that's essential. We don't even exchange senior policy leaders, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. They don't go to Taiwan. This is all self-imposed. We have got to get synchronized from a policy perspective and also from a military execution point as well.
Well, the CCP's not going to be happy about that, right?
Yeah, Mr. Xi is going to be enshrined this fall and will extend his term for certain and likely have no term limits. And we'll see what Mr. Xi is getting out of the Ukraine-Russia thing that has taken place. It's certainly going to have some impact on him. My belief is his national interest in absorbing Taiwan while he is a ruler in China has not diminished because of what has taken place in Ukraine. And I think that the China-Taiwan thing remains a major national security issue for the United States.
And he's modeling himself after Mao Zedong, dictator for life. General, always a pleasure to get your insights on all of the above. Thank you, sir. General Jack Keane joining us this morning.
Yeah, great talking, Maria.
On Iran, Ukraine, and China. Always a pleasure, sir.